Have you ever felt like the world is just too loud? We live in a world that never stops talking, not just the noise of traffic or endless notifications, but the mental noise, the pressure to respond, react, defend, explain, justify, and prove yourself. We live in a time where every moment seems to demand a reaction. But what if I told you that the most powerful thing you could do is to say nothing? And in the middle of all that chaos, we often forget the quiet power that lies in saying nothing. There are moments in life when silence isn't just golden, it's transformational. The Stoics didn't just value silence, they mastered it. To them, silence wasn't about weakness or avoidance. It was a deliberate act of strength, a way to protect your peace, a way to train your mind, a way to rise above the noise of the world and the noise within. In fact, there are 7 key situations where silence is not just helpful, it's essential. Moments when the right words, spoken at the wrong time, can cost you your dignity, your clarity, even your inner freedom. But when you choose silence, you reclaim power. Today, we're going to explore those 7 situations and learn how to use silence, not as a shield, but as a sword. Because the way you speak shapes the world around you. But the way you stay silent, that shapes you. Number 1. When you're angry. Have you ever said something in anger and regretted it the moment it left your lips? We've all been there. That heat rising in your chest, the sting of someone's words. And before your logic has a chance to catch up, you're already reacting sharp, defensive, emotional. But here's what the Stoics knew. Anger is not the enemy, your reaction to it is. Epictetus once said, if someone does wrong, the offense is theirs, but the reaction, that's yours. That simple truth gives you power. Because while you can't control what others do, you can always control how you respond. And when you're angry, the wisest response is silence. Not silence that seethes, but silence that protects. Take a breath. Count to 10. Let your mind cool before your mouth opens. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because when you speak from anger, your words become weapons. Not just toward others, but against your own peace. So, the next time someone presses your buttons, ask yourself, do I want to be right, or do I want to be in control of myself? Sometimes, the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. Number 2. When you're not sure of the facts. Have you ever spoken too soon only to realize later you didn't have the full picture? In today's world, we're surrounded by opinions, headlines, and half-truths. It's easy to feel pressure to jump in, to comment, to add your voice, especially online. But here's the danger. When you speak from assumption, not understanding, you don't just risk being wrong, you risk your integrity. The Stoics knew this well. They taught, it is better to remain silent than to speak without knowledge. Why? Because silence in uncertainty isn't ignorance, it's discipline. It's a sign that you respect the truth more than the sound of your own voice. Imagine being in a heated discussion where everyone is rushing to be heard. Now picture the one person who pauses, who listens, who waits until their words are grounded in truth. That person commands more respect than 10 who rush to speak. So the next time you're unsure, pause, breathe, reflect. Let your words come from clarity, not confusion. Because in a noisy world, it's not just what you say that defines you, it's what you choose not to say. Number 3. When you want to confront, but it's not the right time. Let's be honest, there are moments when you want to say something now, to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to confront what feels unfair or unacceptable. But timing changes everything. The Stoic Seneca once said, when angry, we are on the verge of making mistakes. And he was right. When emotions run high, logic runs low. And what starts as a confrontation can easily turn into conflict, regret, or broken trust. Here's the truth. Confrontation isn't weakness, but rushing it can be. There's real wisdom in restraint. Imagine holding back not because you're afraid, but because you're wise enough to wait. You're giving space for emotion to settle, for clarity to return. And when you finally speak, your words carry more strength because they're not reactive, they're intentional. So, the next time you feel the urge to confront in the heat of the moment, pause. Breathe. Choose silence not to avoid the issue, but to prepare yourself to address it with strength, calm, and clarity. Because silence now can lead to resolution later. And that's power. Stoic power. Number 4. When someone else is speaking. Have you ever caught yourself listening just to reply, planning your response while the other person is still talking? We've all done it. But the Stoics believed that true wisdom begins not with speaking but with listening. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that reason must guide our thoughts, and to reason well, we must first listen well. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, silence becomes a gift. When someone else is speaking, whether it's a friend, a coworker, or even someone you disagree with, your silence allows their words to land. It gives you a chance to understand, not just react. Because here's the truth: interruption breaks connection, but presence builds it. So next time you're in conversation, try this. Resist the urge to jump in. Don't formulate your response while they're still talking. Just listen. Fully, quietly, with intention. That kind of silence? It's not passive. It's powerful. It shows emotional intelligence, respect, and strength. And when it's finally your turn to speak, your words will carry weight, because they'll be rooted in understanding, not just opinion. Number 5. When you're about to gossip or engage in idle talk. Let's be honest, we've all felt the temptation. You hear something juicy about someone, and your first instinct? Share it, add to it, pass it on. But here's the truth. Gossip is a quiet poison. It may feel harmless in the moment, even entertaining, but it leaves behind a trail of mistrust, of broken character, of weakened connection. Marcus Aurelius warned, don't waste time talking about what others do unless it serves a higher purpose. In other words, if it doesn't build, uplift, or teach, let it go. Before you speak about someone who isn't present, pause and ask, is this helpful? Is it kind? Would I say this if they were in the room? Silence, in this case, isn't avoidance, it's leadership. It's a way to protect your integrity and elevate the quality of every room you enter. Because when you don't participate in tearing others down, you build something far more valuable: trust, character, and peace. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Number 6. When you're reflecting on life. Sometimes the most important conversations are the ones you have with yourself. But in a world constantly pushing for productivity, performance, and presence, we rarely slow down enough to actually hear them. Silence is where self-awareness is born. It's where the noise of the world fades, and your true thoughts begin to surface. The Stoics knew this. That's why Marcus Aurelius journaled quietly each morning. Why Seneca wrote letters to sharpen his values. Why Epictetus reminded us that self-reflection is the soil where wisdom grows. So ask yourself, when was the last time you paused not just to rest, but to reflect? You don't need a retreat in the mountains. Sometimes all it takes is 5 minutes with no distractions. Sit, breathe, write, or simply think. What did I do well today? Where did I act out of ego instead of purpose? What truly matters to me, and am I living in alignment with that? In these moments of silence, you reconnect with yourself. And from that clarity, you can realign your actions with your deepest values. Because life moves fast. But growth? That happens in stillness. Number 7. Let silence speak for you. Have you ever been misunderstood? Someone misreads your intentions, takes your words out of context, and suddenly you're the villain in their version of the story. The natural urge is to jump in, explain, defend, prove your side. But the Stoics? They teach us something radically different. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." In other words, don't try to convince people with words. Let your life do the talking. Because when someone's already made up their mind, your explanations won't open their ears, they'll only harden their judgment. So, instead of rushing to defend yourself, pause. Let your stillness speak. Let your integrity be louder than any defense. This kind of silence isn't weakness, it's power. It's self-mastery. It's the strength of a person who no longer needs to chase validation. Because here's the truth. Real honor doesn't come from what others say about you. It comes from living in alignment with your values day in, day out. So next time you're misunderstood, ask yourself, am I trying to prove something or protect something? If it's just your ego talking, choose silence. If it's truth that matters, live it, show it, and let time make it undeniable. This is how a Stoic responds, not with noise, but with quiet strength. So let's bring this home. Silence isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's a deliberate choice, a weapon of clarity, a shield of inner peace. In a world that constantly pressures us to speak, to react, to explain ourselves, choosing silence is radical, it's powerful, and it's Stoic. When you practice silence in these 7 key moments, when you're angry, unsure, misunderstood, tempted to gossip, needing to reflect, or facing poor timing, you're not retreating, you're rising above. You're training yourself to respond with intention instead of impulse. You're preserving your energy for what truly matters. You're choosing depth over noise. Because not every thought deserves a voice. Not every opinion needs a reply. And not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes, the wisest thing you can do is say nothing. Let your silence be your strength. Let it shape your character. Let it speak louder than any word ever could. Share this with someone who needs it today. And if you found a sense of peace in this message, follow us to keep receiving ancient wisdom for modern life. Thank you for being part of Ancient Stoic Secrets.